chapter 2 of Tanya. We have introduced the overview of the chapter in previous sessions, and today we're going into the beginning of Tanya. Beginning of Tanya, chapter 2, it's page 44 in the Practical Tanya. This book, if you don't have it yet, highly recommend. This opening of chapter 2 of Tanya, I have to tell you, I learned this 30 years ago, no, 25 years ago, and I haven't gotten over it yet. I'm still struggling to implement it. I meditate on it almost every single day because it is so beautiful. It is so profound of a statement, of a revelation. This awareness that we are godly. You know, somebody asked me yesterday, I was giving a class, and somebody asked me yesterday, would it be okay to just say that everybody has their own God? That was my response. That was my response. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I said, I don't know what that means. Is that like a nice way of saying that we should all get along with each other? What does that even mean? I said, what you're effectively saying is that man creates God in his image. When really, God created us in his image. And if you're going to reduce God to some sort of a human projection, that's not a God I'm willing to worship. I'm not going to worship a God that I created in my mind because I believe that that's pathetic.
Like an idol.
It's like an idol, yeah. Yeah. But to believe that we were created in God's image, now you're talking. Now you're talking about an almighty master of the universe. Not that okay, I'm retired, I have some extra time right now, so I'm going to try to figure out what God should look like. I'm going to retro-engineer God like a Build-A-Bear or something. You know, it's not a God I'm willing to. I think I might have been a little abrasive, and I hope I wasn't.
Whatever.
I hope they'll come back next week to the class.
Send him to Rob.
So I'm saying this because when we learn now in Tanya that the man has a soul, which is a piece of God, this is the most intensely empowering, liberating, I guess empowering is the right word, idea. Because, I mean, right off the bat, everything changes. It's such a paradigm shift. You're first and foremost indefatigable. You're indefatigable. Nothing can destroy you. Why? Because I am God. I mean, you're not supposed to let it, creep into your head to feel that you are now a super narcissist.
You are not God Almighty.
But you're a piece of God. Right? You have a piece of God. It also tells you when it comes to sin, it's not that some insecure God out there in the sky gets offended if I, eat the chicken soup with the wrong spoon. It's just that I'm the trustee of a piece of him. And if I abuse that trusteeship, is that the word? If I abuse the trusteeship, then they're going to look for another trustee. You can't abuse the funds deposited in escrow. It's not yours. Right? Let's go. Let's go into this chapter 2. No, but you just look. You've been entrusted. What do you? This is not your life to do whatever you want with, as is popular pop culture. You have responsibility. When I talk to people about the fact that their souls have been dispatched to this earth on a mission, people find that very surprising.
It's not always the same mission either.
No, but they find it very surprising because the world we live in is like, I can do whatever I want. I can spend my money however I want, and nobody tells me what to do. But this is deep responsibility here, where you realize that God has invested his essence into you. Not into anything else, not into anyone else, into you. Let's take a look. Page 44, in chapter 1, the Tanya introduced us to Rabbi Chaim Vital's doctrine of two souls. We learned that the animal soul is driven by an egocentric energy called klipa, and is largely responsible for bad temperaments. In this chapter, we'll examine the second divine soul. The second soul in the Israelite, the so-called divine soul, is a piece of God above, literally. What a statement. The second soul in the Jew is a piece of God above, literally. This doesn't mean that non-Jews are less than. Doesn't mean that. That would be an incorrect reading of this text. Non-Jews are perfectly normal, healthy, good human beings.
They have soul.
They have souls too.
They come from
But only the Jew has an extra soul.
So they only have a natural soul.
A natural soul.
So God put the natural soul in them too.
Of course.
So, I mean,
Of course.
all
All human beings have souls. But it's the Jew specifically that has a second soul. A soul which is more like an alien that doesn't even belong on this earth. Imagine an Eskimo in the Sahara Desert. That's what this godly soul is like on this planet Earth, where godliness is completely concealed. This is a world of confusion and spiritual darkness. God is not at home in this world. Our mission is to make God a home in this inhospitable terrain. It gives you a little perspective on what it means to be a Jew. Now, Gentiles have their own purpose and mission. The Jew has his own purpose and mission, right? But it comes to show you that to be a Jew means that you have a different kind of responsibility. If I had to give an example of this, and that's exactly what the Alter was about to say, is it racist to say that you've given your kids more a piece of yourself than you gave to your neighbor's kids? These are my kids. What do you want? These are my children, and those are not my children. I love them all, but, these are my progeny, and those are not my progeny. This is an example that I was about to bring. The children inherit the DNA of the parents. Who are the children of God? B'ni b'chayri Yisrael, my son Israel. That's what it says in the Torah. When the Torah says, my son Israel, it doesn't mean just as poetic metaphor. It means exact. Every word in Torah is exact. When it says, Israel is my child, it means I have infused my DNA into you. That's what it means. So it's not racist or xenophobic or hateful to say that I've infused my DNA into my children and on into my someone else's children, right? It's not hateful. It's just these are my kids. That's what it means, and that's what it means when it says in Torah, "My son Israel." That's what it's talking about. That's what the Jews are called, the children of God. That's what it means to be the chosen people. As Jews, I often find many Jews are very uncomfortable with this idea of the chosen people because they feel that somehow it's a cause for AntiSemitism. Well, let's stick to one at a time. Chosen people. What does it mean, chosen people? So they say, well, it's a cause for anti-Semitism. We're not exactly chosen. I don't know why we were chosen. Didn't ask to be chosen. Maybe you could also be chosen. Then you got Tevye and the fiddle on the roof. He says, Tevye and the fiddle on the roof. He says, I understand we're the chosen people, but couldn't you choose someone else once in a while? If this is what chosen means, then maybe you don't want it, So, but chosen people means we have to stop apologizing for being chosen. We have to stand up and say, yes, we are. Stop apologizing for surviving the Holocaust. Stop apologizing for surviving every enemy that tried to kill us over the past 4,000 years. We are here because we are chosen. And if you ignore your chosenness, then you're an idiot. I'm sorry. Pardon me for being... Pardon me. But seriously, imagine the President of the United States gets up there and he's like, there's really nothing special about me. I'm just a regular plumber like everybody else. Hello, what do you think we chose you for? We chose you. No, so do something presidential already. Sign something.
What are we talking about?
Well, in deference to your audience, many Jews don't see this concept that they're chosen.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to
They're
drive home right now.
They're indifferent.
Yeah.
Or ignorant.
Or
And
they're embarrassed.
kind
Or
sense.
embarrassed.
They're embarrassed to be
Kind
thought of as
sense.
chosen.
They're what?
I said they're ignorant I'm saying in a kind sense of it. They're not knowledgeable.
So I think my lawyer here is telling me I made a mistake.
No, you didn't. Man.
No, you didn't make a mistake. You said it perfectly. Whether it's racist or not, interesting. They think it's racist. A lot of people
think it's racist. Yeah.
because
But isn't the elitist?
Oh, so this is where we're going. Okay, fine. So now we're getting some feedback. So is it elitist? Is it elitist for you to say that your wife chose you and not any other man? Is that elitist?
I had to pay her to do that.
Why not? Well, are you more special than my neighbor? That you were chosen by her? Dan says, yes, I am more special because you chose me. That doesn't mean you're worse. It means that I'm chosen. You understand what I'm saying? Let me illustrate by an analogy. So the analogy goes about two brothers, Shalom Ber and Zalman Aaron. They were two brothers. The Shalom Ber was the future fifth Rebbe of Chabad. These were the two sons of the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Rebbe of Chabad. Zalman Aaron was the older brother, and Shalom Ber was the younger brother. If I remember correctly, Shalom Ber, the younger brother, was taller than the older brother. So let me just finish the analogy. I'm saying, so what happened? So one day the Rebbe Marash is looking through the window and he sees his two boys playing. So Zalman Aaron, who the older brother, who was shorter, maybe felt a little chip on his shoulders. He wanted to make his younger brother shorter than him. So what did he do? He pushed him into a little ditch. So he's shorter. So the Rebbe Marash came out and he said, there's two ways to make yourself higher. You can either make yourself higher by pushing the other guy down, or you can make yourself higher by pulling yourself up. The first way is racist, elitist. The second way is responsible and conscious.
Yeah, but, we may not act elitist, but I think non-Jews, when you use the expression "the chosen," that's maybe one of the reasons for anti-Semitism.
Chuck, I agree with you 100%. And I'll tell you why. Where was the Torah given? You remember which mountain the Torah was given on? What was the name of the mountain? You remember?
Sinai.
Mount Sinai, right? Do you know what Sinai means in Hebrew? Hatred. The Talmud says that the reason it's called Mount Sinai is because sin'ah means hatred. This is the mountain that brought hatred to the world. Imagine you had 10 kids, and one of them you said, I'm giving you the whole business. You're the chosen one. What's going to happen? Hey, that's for your neighbor. What are you doing?
No, he already got one.
Oh.
Of these. He did the same guy.
Everyone goes to their lawyer.
That's all?
All of them go to their lawyers. The other 9.
That's right. They'll go to the lawyers, right? And they'll start firing missiles, right? Imagine one of the kids gets the whole will and everybody else garnished. What's going to happen?
The lawyers.
It's not going to be pretty. This, says the Talmud, is the cause for anti-Semitism. When God chose the Jewish people, everybody else felt slighted. Sibling rivalry. So I agree with you. The Talmud agrees with you. Does that mean anti-Semitism is an unintended consequence of the Jews being chosen in Mount Sinai? I think it's an intended consequence. To quote Jean-Paul Sartre, who said that anti-Semitism was good for the Jews. I hate to say that. Sounds awful. It sounds awful. But think about it. What would happen to Jewish people if we had no anti-Semitism in the past 4,000 years? Would you agree with that?
I think so.
Yeah? What happens on college campus when you get a swastika on a Jewish building?
All of a sudden,
All of a sudden, everybody becomes Jewish, right? Even the Gentiles become Jewish. So when yarmulkes, yeah, they're like, we stand to the Jews, right? I believe that anti-Semitism is by divine design. I've written about this. I'm writing a book about this. That anti-Semitism is not a mistake. That God designed anti-Semitism. That God designed anti-Semitism in order to keep us on our toes. Keep us united and connected. Yeah, connected to each other and to him. In fact, I mean, listen, this is nothing new. It's when Jacob gets the blessings, Jacob and Esau were two brothers, right? The two brothers of Isaac, two sons of Isaac. And Jacob stole the blessings from Esau. So the Jews stole the blessings from the Gentiles. So we get all the blessings, the chosen blessings, right? Esau comes in and he says, Dad, what's left for me? And he's the first anti-Semite. He's Esau. So Isaac says, listen, there's not much left for you, but here's the only thing I can give you, is that when Jacob will abandon his chosenness, when he'll forget to behave like a Jew, then you'll be able to prevail over him. Anti-Semitism. I mean, this is a lot to process. It's a big topic over here. I'm just validating what you just said. That yes, chosen people is the cause for anti-Semitism. I think so. And I think God wanted it to be that way. I'm not sure if you're agreeing with that or not. I mean, I know it sounds sensational.
So Asa really
Outrageous,
started all
actually.
the-
What?
Asa started the Gentiles.
Not the Gentiles. He was first anti-Semite. But he was neutralized, by the way. Esau came to attack and kill Jacob, but he ended up kissing him. I've written about this. Again, it's part of my book, but it's an interesting concept. Are you okay with what I'm saying, or are you looking at me like I'm crazy? I didn't read your body language. Look, it's a very intense topic, but the way I teach it is that as Jews, we have a choice. We can either be elitist about it and say, I'm chosen. You're not chosen. That's disgusting. It's obnoxious. Or the way I teach it is, we say, look, we are all God's children.
You
And-
said one of the three traits of a Jew is humility.
Yes,
So how can you be?
that's what I said.
you have
I said,
humility and being a leader.
I think it's obnoxious. I think
What's about this?
to take that attitude, to adopt such an attitude, I think it's not a Jewish approach.
What? I'm sorry.
I'm saying we have a choice of how we view our chosenness. We can either be chosen in the sense that we look down at other people, which is obnoxious, or the conscious Jew celebrates his chosenness not by pushing the other one down, but by lifting himself up. To say that I'm chosen for a higher responsibility. You are more accountable to your wife than I am, correct? Because you're chosen by her. I'm not chosen by her. That doesn't mean I'm less than. It means you more than. You're higher, not that I'm lower. Does that make sense? And that's how we have to view it. We have to tell the non-Jews and say, look, every one of us is called upon to have a meaningful relationship with God. How do you do that? For a Jew, it takes 613 responsibilities, mitzvahs. For a non-Jew, only 7 mitzvahs, and you could be righteous. 7 mitzvahs, that's it. To be a righteous Gentile is much easier than it is to be a righteous Jew. Make sense? I can find favor in your wife's eyes much easier than you can. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense, right? Because I'm not accountable to so much. What does she expect from me? Nothing, right? If I just say good morning to her, that's it. That's nice enough. But if you just say good morning to her, that's not enough. You got to do more. You got to take out the garbage. You got to, do all sorts of other stuff.
But Chuck's point was, and I agree, as you've espoused, we have to be humble. Because we have this gift from God, we have to be humble about it and go and do mitzvahs. And in that way, become like unto the nations, in my view. You agree or not?
100%. 100%. In other words, to become arrogant about this would be a rejection of our Jewish traits, of that 3 Jewish traits: merciful, humble, and kind. So the Talmud says that a Jew that doesn't display those traits, you have to question his lineage. So when you have a Jew that's walking around and beating his chest, maybe he's not really a Jew. You're going to question his lineage. You see what I'm saying? So the Jewish approach to chosenness is we've been chosen for greater responsibility. Like the higher level management is more responsible than lower level employees. Right? I think that's how it works, right? So it means you got more responsibilities. Instead of looking at what everybody else is not called upon to do, how about you focus on what you are called upon to do? Right? You've got this extra soul, this piece of God, use it. How are you using it? What are you doing with it? And if you spend your entire life chasing a golf ball, right, and chasing another dollar, then maybe you're abusing the F-16 fighter jet
It's in your soul.
that you've been given. You know, if you're still driving a golf cart when you have an F-16 fighter jet, what are you doing? It's a shanda. You with me?
No more golf for you.
This is what I'm saying. Let's develop this idea further. The description of the soul as literally divine is striking. Since Jewish teachings are usually careful to emphasize a sharp distinction between the Creator and His creations. Rabbi Chaim Vital explains, the soul's light arises and flows from the light of the 10 Sephiros themselves, from the divine powers, without any intermediary, which is why the verse states, you are children of God, your God, for the soul is like a child who is completely attached to his father, from whom his being flows. That's the second analogy we're going to give right now, is about the analogy of a child coming from the father, from the parents. The first analogy, which we're going to have time for today, hopefully, is the analogy of blowing. You'll see in a moment. The application of the verse, a piece of God above, to describe this attachment of the soul dates back to Safed Kabbalist Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, the teacher of the Arizal. Rabbi Eliyahu Davidas, Ramak student, used this phrase in his popular Kabbalistic work, Reishis Chachma, which appeared in print as early as 1578. And from there became a standard reference in the Kabbalistic ethical literature. The emphasis literally is found in Rabbi Shabtai Sheftel Horowitz, Shefatal. Okay, now, let's develop this idea. Oh, office key? The idea of a divine soul suggested this one? Oh, my office. You know what the key is for my office? It's in the top left. The idea of a divine soul is suggested by the verse describing man's creation, and God blew into his nostrils the breath of life. So this is a fascinating verse which I want you to meditate on. It says in the account of creation, and God blew into his nostrils the breath of life. When you read the account of creation, and I highly recommend that you do, here it is, it's in the Chumash. This is the Bible, right? So if you open the Bible to page 1, which is the beginning of Genesis, that's actually page 5. I don't know why the Bible starts on page 5, but don't ask me, but here it is. So it starts on page 5, and this is the beginning of creation. In the beginning of on the first day of creation, in the beginning of God's creation, ex nihilo, of heaven and earth, in it and everything, whatever. Okay, so this is the account of creation. It's like 6 pages, not too long, page 5 through page 13. And you'll see that everything was created by God's speech. Everything was created by God's speech, except for one thing. Except for mankind. Mankind was created by God's blowing. What does that mean? What happens when you blow? You blow, you get tired. You speak, you don't get tired. Because speaking is very minimal energy invested. Blowing is intense energy. It's my whole kishkis is into it, right? So when God speaks into creation, it doesn't mean that God spoke words. It's anthropomorphic. It means that he invested little amounts of divine energy into everything that was created. Into the trees, the plants, the blue whales, and the tigers. All of them have minimal divine energy. But when God blew, it means he put his kishkis into man, his essence. Nachmanides, Ramban, an early Spanish Kabbalist, was the first to explain this verse as evidence of a divine soul. This verse hints for us the virtue of the soul, says Nachmanides. It states that God breathed into his nostrils the soul of life to inform you that the soul is not derived from the elements, rather it is the Spirit of God. So this idea was actually identified by Nachmanides, who lived in 1194. That's when he was born. This is a 900-year-old idea, which is explaining the verse of the written Torah. Page 45. And the same idea is suggested by the phrase which we say every morning in davening, the soul that you have blown into me. Well, here they translate it as breathe. The word nafachto means to blow. The soul that you have blown into me. Every morning we wake up. The first thing we say when we wake up in the morning, we say Modani, right? Which is thank you for restoring my soul within me. Then we say the blessing of the washing of the hands. We say the blessing for the bathroom, and then we're right away. The first page page 5 in the prayer book. This is the prayer book, right? It says, "My God, the soul which you have given within me is pure." What a meditation to start your day with. You have created it, you have formed it, you have blown it into me. That's what we say. It's the first thing we say in the morning. What a meditation. What's the idea of blowing? And as the sages of the Zohar state, that unlike speaking, which uses relatively little breath, one who blows from his kishkis, meaning from the innermost depths of his being. For when a person blows forcibly, he exhales with a deep-rooted inner energy. The biblical metaphor of blowing in man's soul suggests that God has a deep inward attachment with the soul. You understand this, Shalom? It makes sense? In distinction to the rest of creation, which arose through the much more superficial speech of God, God said, let there be.
Let there be. Right.
While the Tanya refers to this as a teaching of the Zohar, skip the bracket. A further teaching which illustrates the intimate connection between the second soul and God is the midrashic idea of the Jewish people arising in God's mind prior to God's creation. Prior to creation, right? In the same vein, the Midrash depicts the Jewish souls as having arisen in the mind of God before the creation of the world. What does it mean that we come from God's brain? This intimate connection is also, this is a second metaphor. The first one is blowing. We understand the metaphor of blowing? It makes sense? Here's a second metaphor of Torah which says that the Jews originated in God's mind. The intimate connection is also depicted scripturally as a parental relationship. As the verse states, Israel, my firstborn son, you are children to God, your God. So what's the connection between the Midrashic idea of souls arising from the mind of God and the biblical metaphor of souls as children of God? To clarify this point, the Tanya now enters into a discussion which will be central to our chapter concerning the spiritual origins of a child and his or her father. What we're going to explain, I think we should stop it over here, but what we're going to explain is that a child derives from the father's highest faculties, from the brain. We're talking about the sperm that comes from that has the highest faculties of the brain of the parent, which is why the child's highest faculties resemble the highest faculties of the father.
And just they asked that they're not here. What about the woman? What about
the Tanya speaks about the father. It's more like I think that's it's kind of like in English when you say when you speak about he as a reference to people. I think we do that in English, right?
Yeah, we used to do that.
My understanding is that it's not to exclude the woman. It means father as in parent.
Okay.
That's my understanding in the wider, because think about it. The child doesn't inherit the brain of the mother. Sometimes you got a yuckle for a father.
No, absolutely.
And a mother who's a rocket scientist, and
Right.
the kid gets the brain of the mother. Some kids, get the wrong side of the gene pool. It depends. So you have to have a lot of kids.
Roll of the dice, they say.
That's it. So what happens? It's not to exclude the woman, basically. But remember, these are the two meditations with which we enter Pesach, and I want to encourage you to share this at your Pesach table. Think about this idea to share at your Seder table and say, what does it mean to be a Jew? What does it mean to be chosen people? Think about that. And you say, look, I'll tell you what it means to be chosen people. It means that God put His essence into us. Either He blew His essence into us, or that we are His children. There's two different metaphors. We're His children, and like a parent put his essence into the child to the point that the child resembles the parent, so too we have a piece of God in us. That's what it means to be chosen. And the question is, what are you going to do with it? So what are you going to do? You've been empowered with the most powerful weapon of mass construction that has ever seen the face of this earth. It's a piece of God. That's what you got. A piece of God in you. And what are you using it for? Golf? Restaurants to sleep in? Or are you using it in order to change the world? To bring consciousness and light to dark places? And I think that would make a great conversation for the Seder. Question: tomorrow is Tanya's Becheres. Does the firstborn woman also obligated to fast? I don't think so. Or just for man older than bar mitzvah age, even younger than bar mitzvah age, the father should fast for the children. Fast for the firstborn, 14th of Nisan. Good. At dawn till nightfall. You got it, Winston. Thank you very much, everybody. I want to wish everybody a Zis and Pesach, a kosher and a meaningful Pesach, a joyous Pesach. And we'll see you after Pesach. The classes will resume in 2 weeks' time on April 17th. We're taking a break for Passover. Thank you.
Oh, April
Thank you.
17th.
Thank you so much.